Did you know that there are many different types of anchors? There is a claw anchor. This is also known as the Bruce anchor. It features a scoop shape that's best for sand, rock, and mud bottoms. It has good holding power and often sets quickly and easily. However, it can be difficult to reset if you lose its set. There's another one that's called the Delta anchor. You may know this as a plow anchor if you've ever studied anchorology. It has a single curved plow or wing that digs into the bottom. And it's best for versatile, it's very versatile and is good for performing well in sand and mud and gravel, sometimes rock. It sets real easily, has good holding power, but sometimes it drags through weeds. There's also one called a fluke, maybe known as the Danforth, a wide fluke and pivot. It digs deeply into the seabed. It's good for soft, sandy, muddy bottoms. It's excellent holding power in right conditions. There's one called a grapnel, and it's shaped quite differently. It has two or more arms or prolonged or designed to catch and hold on to rocks and other objects. There's one called a mushroom anchor. It's just a simple, heavy weight that you throw over, and it grabs the ground and stays. However, it can drag on certain bottoms. Did you know that the perfect angle, the optimal angle for an anchor to work for a boat is somewhere between 45 and 60 degrees? Did you know that the boat size and weight, as well as the bottom conditions of the water and weather conditions, highly impact the use of an anchor? Now, these are just a couple pictures of a couple anchors. I had to go look this up because I didn't know a whole lot about anchors. When I think of an anchor, I think you could probably just take a cinder block and throw out there, right? And tie a rope to it. And no, there's all kinds of different. You can really study and get real deep into understanding which anchor you need for your boat. Which anchor you need for the size, the length, how heavy your boat is, how deep the water is going to be that you're anchoring in. But did you know that absolutely none of that matters if you don't use the anchor? Did you know that none of that information matters whatsoever if a person doesn't use the anchor? I bought a boat several years ago, and it's a big, long boat. It's heavy. It's aluminum. I can do a lot of different things in it. I like to bow fish in it, and it's got a big deck on it. We can kind of hang out as a family on it. And so I'd not used a boat very much. When I decided to buy this one, I got one that was real safe. And I read all the books, and I took the safety course, and I talked to all my friends. I've been on boats all my life. When I bought this one, I decided I wanted to be real cautious and careful with it. I'd taken it out several times. Roman had been out with me a couple times. Well, finally one day came, and all four of us, it was a beautiful day in North Mississippi, and we were going to get in my boat and go out and just spend the afternoon. And we had a blast. We got in my boat, and we lowered it down. We got it in the water with no major fights, We were able to drop the thing off. We got in it. We motored about 10 or 15 minutes. It was just a gorgeous day. We found a little slough. There was nobody in it. We went back into the back of it. We threw the anchor down. I fished off the front. The kids jumped off the back, which means I didn't catch anything that day either. But they were swimming around and goofing. I mean, we just had an absolute blast that day. We've been out there a couple hours when I heard the thunder rolling. Well, I looked on my weather app. They didn't show anything coming, but I'd heard some thunder. Well, about 10 minutes later, another big roll of thunder came, and I thought, well, we've been out here for a while. We've had a good trip. We better head in. So we start packing everything up. We come out of the slough, and we head back about a 10 to 15-minute drive to where we had put in. And when we got in, there was the dock that was right there. That was the only dock I'd use. That was the only place I'd put that boat in over and over and over again, just to make sure that I knew what was going on. I pulled right up next to the dock, and Bridget and Scarlett stayed in the boat, and I told Roman to get out and hold the boat. I said, I want you to hold on to the boat, Rome. Well, he and I had gone before. And I'd said, Roman, I want you to hold the boat. He was about 11 or 12 years old. He held on to the boat. And it was fine. There was no wind. It was a beautiful day. Well, I had to go up. I got out of the boat, had to go up, walk up to the top of this hill where the ramp that came in was pretty high. It was pretty steep. And I was parked all the way at the other end of it because there were a lot of boats that day. I climbed all the way up, and when I got up to the top, man, the wind started blowing. It was a pop-up storm. You know what a pop-up storm is? They're just, we have them in the afternoon sometimes. Everything works just together perfect for a storm to come out of nowhere. It just started, the wind started blowing. It got really, really dark. And I ran to the truck. I got in the truck. I had to pull all the way around to where I could finally get back to where I could straighten up, where I could back down that steep ramp. And as I looked into the rearview mirror, all I could see was Roman standing on the dock. I didn't see a boat anywhere. Well, I'm backing back down, and I get down and I look over my shoulder and I look and see Roman standing on the dock, and I can tell he's very, very nervous, and he's looking out, and I see the boat is drifting out into the water. And it has Bridget and Scarlett, who neither one know how to drive this boat at the time. It's drifting way out into the water. So I throw the truck in park and I jump out and I go run and I go, what happened? He goes, Daddy, it slipped out of my hands. Well, I didn't know what to do. I'm not a great swimmer. Okay, some of you people who gracefully move through the water, you make me sick because I look like a guy who's trying to like swat flies when I go to swimming. I go straight to the bottom, but I thought I need to get out there. So I jump in the water and I go swimming across, and I finally get up into the boat and I turn around. Roman's so nervous. We have a joke in our family that when Roman's nervous, he does jumping jacks apparently because he was on the dock just doing jumping jacks. I don't know what that was all about. But anyway, we finally got in the boat and I got the trolling motor on and I pulled it up. But you know what I did this time? The wind was blowing. It was getting dark. It was about to start pouring on us. You know what I did? I pulled the rope out. I had a bunch of rope in that boat. That boat has a lot of rope. There's a rope in the front. There's rope in the back. There's one in the side panel there. I have ropes everywhere. This time, I pulled out the rope and I tied it to the cleat on the boat, and I tied it to the dock. And I went out and I backed my truck in, and then I was able to get it in. A lot of things happened on that day, but one of the things that I remember the absolute most after it began to just absolutely pour on us, one of the questions that I asked myself was, why did I not use the rope the first time? Why did I not just tie the thing off? Well, here's why. Because when I got out of the boat, everything was okay, but the conditions changed. The rope was in the boat the whole time. All I had to do was tie the boat off, and I wouldn't even have a story to tell you right now. I mean, that would have never happened. My phone would have never got dropped in the lake. There was all kinds of, Scarlett wouldn't have been bawling her eyes out. There was all kinds of things that wouldn't have happened if I'd have just used a rope to tie myself off, even when it didn't seem like it was the right time to do it. But the conditions changed. And I saw what was in my boat the whole time much differently. I stood up here just a moment ago and I gave you all kinds of useless facts about anchors. And I did it on purpose. Because I can stand up here and tell you facts about anchors all day long, but until you need one, it don't matter. Until you need an anchor, that's just a bunch of useless information. And the problem is, there are certain things that we talk about in the Bible that we can stand up and give fact after fact, verse after verse, idea after idea, illustration after illustration, point after point. But until we need them, those are just facts that may not matter to us at that time. Hope is one of those things that we can stand up here and talk about all day long. There is a life after this life. Did you know that? Yes, you know that. Did you know there's a God in heaven? Yes, you know that. Did you know that He sent His Son and He lived on this earth? Yes, you know that. Did you know that He came because of your sins? Yes, you know that. Did you know that He lived a perfect, sinless life? Yes, you know that. Do you know that He died, was buried, and God raised Him from the dead? Did you know that? Yes, you know that. Did you know that that was for the forgiveness of sins because you were lost? Yes, you know that. Did you know that that gives you a hope that you've never had before? It gives you the opportunity to be in heaven with God forever. Did you know that? Yes, you know that. It's right there in the boat. The problem is we don't use it sometimes. We don't use it to motivate us. We don't use it in our lives when we need it. And it's not until the hopeless times, till the times that we feel helpless, till the climate changes, that all of a sudden we start reaching for our anchor. It's not until we need that hope that we reach for hope. It's not until we need God in our lives till we begin to reach for what God has to offer us. You and I need to be the kind of people that every morning when we wake up, we are reaching for God and the hope that He's provided for us. Not just when things change. Not just when the wind starts blowing. Not just when all of a sudden we need a God in our lives who will fix our problems. We need to live our lives based on a hope. Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19. The Hebrew writer says, this hope we have as an anchor of the soul, both sure and steadfast. This hope that we have as an anchor for our soul. Here's the idea. It's not just when we need it. It's not just when we start to drift away or we're having problems that we need to throw an anchor out. We need to tie off to the dock that is the rock. I didn't mean that to be, to rhyme like that, but it works. We need to tie off to that rock and stay tied to it at all times. When the water's calm and our boat isn't going anywhere, when there's no wind and the boat would just sit in the water and not drift anywhere, we still need to be tied off because the climate might change. And then all of a sudden we start reaching for something that was there all along. Now the Hebrew audience needed to hear this. The Hebrew audience, the writer knew what they were going through. If you go back and you study who the audience of this Hebrew letter is, then you'll understand that that meant quite a bit to them. You see, these were the people who lived in and around Jerusalem. They were the Christians who had been baptized on the day of Pentecost, had gone home, had sold all their belongings, and had nowhere to go, so they came back to Jerusalem. And they had established a congregation there, a really, really big congregation that was growing. Had 5,000 men at just one point. And then it got to the point where they were just saying myriads. They had a big, big, big congregation. They were dividing up, trying to organize and take care of everything. But then some persecution came, and a lot of them were scattered, but that congregation was still there. And you know what else was going on? That congregation in Jerusalem was watching the Jewish faith continue. Every year, those folks would come right back to Jerusalem for the Pentecost. They would come right back for the feast. And they were constantly priests. They knew their priests. They knew them by name because they were well-known folks. They knew who they were. And the Jewish faith had continued. That was the faith they had pulled away from. They were starting on their own. They were starting something new. They were following Jesus. At least that's the way they felt. But you know what? The climate changed. The Jewish faith was going just fine, but Christianity became difficult. Jewish faith seemed to be doing all right. They had no problems. But Christianity was changing. And guess what? Jesus hadn't come back yet. I converted because I thought Jesus was coming back soon. I thought I might see him come back in my lifetime. That's the way they were thinking. And all of a sudden, Jesus wasn't coming back. And they were wondering, are we doing the right thing? Or should we be doing this? Are we supposed to be following this? In their minds, the Old Testament, all these folks that they knew about all their lives, all the way back to Adam, Abraham, Moses, Noah, all these people, David, all these lineages, in their minds, they felt like the day of Pentecost, they had spewed off and started another timeline. But the book of Hebrews was written to tell them that they were actually the continuation of that timeline, and that those that did not convert to Christianity were the ones that were spewing off and going in a different direction. And they needed something to hang on to. But what they had to hang on to had been there the whole time. What they were reaching for and grasping for had been there the whole time. And so earlier, in Hebrews chapter 6, he's coming back and he's saying this anchor that we have is hope. And it's an anchor for our soul. It's sure and it's steadfast and it's strong and it's not going anywhere. But he explains just a little bit more about this hope a little bit earlier in Hebrews chapter 3. Now, as you begin the book of Hebrews, he's trying to tell them that everything that Jesus and the New Testament has to offer is better than everything you're considering going back to. So he said, God has spoken at different times in different ways, but now speaks to you through Jesus' Son. And he made Jesus' Son a little lower than the angels to be a man, and he did that because he loves you. But don't think that while he was a man, he was just any man. He was better than the best man, because all of a sudden, not only did he compare the way God communicated with Jesus, he compared Jesus to the angels, and now he compares Jesus to man. And in Hebrews chapter 3, he starts comparing the fact that you believe in Moses. You believe that Moses was a good man. You believe that he was a godly man. Well, he was in the house. And what he explains is that Jesus is over the house. And we have a hope because of that. Read the passage with me. Hebrews chapter 3, starting at verse 1. Therefore, holy brethren, partakers of the heavenly calling, consider the apostle and high priest of our confession, Christ Jesus, who was faithful to him who appointed him, as Moses also was faithful in all his house. For this one has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses, inasmuch as he, Jesus, who built the house, has more honor than the house. For every house is built by someone, but he who built all things is God. So he is saying, y'all, you know that Moses was a great man. Jesus is better than that. And he goes on to explain that. Verse 5, he says, and Moses indeed was faithful in all his house as a servant, for a testimony of those things which would be spoken afterwards. But Christ, verse 6, as a son over his own house. Are you ready for it? They're wondering, where's my anchor? The climate's changed. Things are different. The wind's blowing a little harder. This isn't as easy as I thought it was. He says, whose house we are. That house that Jesus built. The church of Jesus Christ, whose house we are if we hold fast the confidence and rejoicing of the hope firm to the end. The climate changed, but the truth didn't. It had been there all along. They had been Christians for years and had based it on their faith in Jesus Christ, and all of a sudden they needed that information in a different part of their life. A couple of words here are interesting. The word hold fast. It has a word picture. All of you can see a big ship, like a pirate ship. We've seen the movies, right? And it has the big sails, and it has the big beam out in front of it. And it has that big old steering wheel, you know, the one that we're familiar with. It's what you think of when you think of a ship, is that steering wheel. And it has all the pegs coming out of it. It's round, and it's up a little bit higher on one of the decks. And there's somebody who's just calmly moving the thing around. Well, the word picture of holding fast here is that all of a sudden the climate changes. All of a sudden the temperature changes. The wind is blowing. It's pitch black outside. It was calm a minute ago, but things have changed. And the wind is blowing. The lightning is lighting up the horizon in the dark, and all you can see is the rain pouring down. You feel it beating on your face. You see the water coming over the sides of the boat. Everything has changed, and we need something to hold on to. What do you hold on to? You hold on to that steering wheel. And you fight the currents, you fight the push, you fight the pull of the wind because you know the direction you're heading in, even though you might not can see it now, even though it's not as clear it was just a little while ago. You know that's the direction you head in, and you hold on to that steering wheel and you try to keep it moving. You pull with all you have. You use muscles you didn't know you had. You reach down deep inside because if you get off course, you and everybody with you might be lost. That's the imagery that Hold Fast is portraying for people who believe in Jesus but are struggling because things have changed. We hold on. And there's two words there that are used: confidence and rejoicing. We hold on because we have confidence. We had confidence when things were calm. We had confidence when things were smooth. But now things have changed, and I'm hanging on because I have full confidence that this is the direction that I'm supposed to go in, that God is right, that Jesus is His Son, and that I want to be with Him forever in eternity. And I'm going to hold on to it. And I'm going to hold on with confidence, and no matter what happens, because of that confidence, I'll have a rejoicing in there somewhere. It may not be in the fight. It may not be in the battle, and it may not be in the winds. It might be on the other side. But my hope has a confidence and a rejoicing in it if I can hold firm to the end. Not the end of the winds. Not the end of the storm, the end of this life. Because, see, sometimes things get difficult, and then it changes again, and things get a little better. In this passage, if you read through the book of Hebrews, you'll see some very interesting things. He goes through and he shows 8 ways that they could fall away. And he uses different imagery. Many of them are of the water and of a boat. But there's a couple right here at the very beginning that he's trying to get his point across with. And one of them is in chapter 3 and in verse 6 that we've looked at. But then go back to chapter 2 and verse 1 as he introduced this. He told him, he said, listen, God has chosen to speak to you in the best way He possibly can through Jesus' Son. And He made Him a little lower than the angels. And then He says in chapter 2 and verse 1, therefore we must give the more earnest heed to the things that we have heard, lest we drift away. For if the words spoken through angels provided steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received just reward, how shall we escape if we neglect so great a salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by the Lord, and was confirmed by us, by those who heard Him, God also bearing witness, both with signs and wonders, with various miracles and gifts of the Holy Spirit, according to His own will. How can we escape this if we don't hold on? He says, listen, you need to hold on and use your anchor when you don't know what to do. The imagery. I don't have many options right now. There's a Disney movie that has a very meaningful quote in it. There's a situation where things are not going well, and the advice given is, let's just do the next right thing. I don't know what's after that, but I can do the next right thing. Sometimes I don't know what to do. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations and we don't know how we got there. Finally, everything has changed in our life. Things were good, things are not. There was a death, there was a bill that came in, there was information about a health issue, whatever the case is. Things changed. But if we're already hanging on, if we're already tied off with that hope that there's something beyond this, no matter how hard this is, then when I don't know what to do, I've got something to hang on to. The man driving the ship doesn't have many options when he's trying to fight to keep it on course. All he can do is when he gets a peak of light through the lightning, he can look out and see the direction he's going and try to adjust the best he can to keep himself moving in the direction that he knows he needs to go. Sometimes you don't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. They were confused and they were upset and they don't know exactly what to do. So he says to them, we must give the more earnest heed to the things that we've heard. What does that mean? That means we hang on to what we know. Earnest heed is just a funny way of saying make sure you pay attention when it's easy. Because that's what's going to build the character that's going to help us move through whatever's next. Another thing you see here in chapter 3 and verse 12, kind of moving back and forth. This is the second time that he warns them. He says, beware, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief and departing from the living God. Verse 13, but exhort one another daily while it's called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. Interesting that he mentions this here because he's saying you hang on to your anchor when you become discouraged. Has there ever been, no, don't raise your hand. Has there ever been anybody in this room that's been discouraged? Don't raise your hand. You don't have to. Have you ever been discouraged with your brothers and sisters in Christ? You don't have to raise your hand. You ever been discouraged because of a situation you're in, because of something somebody else did, because of something you did? You ever felt discouragement? You ever sit there and you put your hands in your face and you don't know what to do? Have you ever felt a discouragement and you just wish it would go away? It's a knowledge that you have that creates a feeling inside of you. That's when you need that anchor. That hope that there's something beyond whatever this is. And if I can do the next right thing. When discouragement comes, it won't take us off course. It may only make us tighten our grip and cinch down even harder. Because we know that if we can face whatever is discouraging us right now and we can deal with it correctly and we can pray ourselves through it and we can live our lives the way we know we should as we go through these hard things that we might be dealing with, then we know that there's something on the other side. That hope. It's the anchor. It'll move. It's solid. I've got to react to it. Third thing I want you to see here is in chapter 4 and verse 1. Therefore, since a promise remains of entering his rest, let us fear lest any of you seem to have come short of it. For indeed the gospel was preached to us as well as to these others, but the word which they heard did not profit them, nor that information, that truth that was being taught, being mixed with faith in those who heard it. For we who have believed do enter that rest, as he has said, so I swore my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although the works were finished from the foundations of the world. What he's trying to tell these folks in this time is, there are those who've heard truth, and it became information to them. Just like a bunch of information about random kinds of anchors. It just was information. But it wasn't mixed with faith. It's a cooking term that's used here. You take this information and you pour it all in there, but then you take faith and you put in it too, and you mix that together, and what comes out of it is a hope that is an anchor for the soul when no matter what happens, no matter what's going on, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, mental pain, whatever the case is, there's hope. And so sometimes, we waver in confidence in the one we're following. We don't say that part out loud, though, but we just whisper it in our minds. Right back here somewhere, when things aren't going the way we think they're supposed to go, when the climate changes, there's a voice back here saying, are you sure? Are you sure? Yeah, I'm absolutely sure. Because if we tie ourselves off to the rock in the times of peace and comfort, then when that little voice shows up in the back, we say, you know what? I have a confidence in God that is greater than anything I'm going through. And that confidence isn't based on just what I can see at the moment, but it's an experience based on expectation. An expectation based on experience. I can expect that God's going to do what He said He's going to do because I know who God is, and I know He said He would do it. He didn't say that He was going to make things easy in our lives. He didn't say we weren't going to grow old and have pains. He didn't say that we weren't going to have people that we love turn our back on us. He didn't say that we were going to have people we love turn around and walk away from the faith. He didn't say that we weren't going to lose our jobs. He said that at the end of this life, He's standing there at the gates welcoming us in if we are faithful to Him. I want to go to heaven more than anything that I know. And I know that you do too. But that's just a phrase if it doesn't motivate us. The information is there. It's whether or not we use the information and apply it in our lives, where we take that information and we mix it with faith and we bring out a hope that can conquer anything. That's what we're looking for. Maybe there's someone here today who doesn't have that hope. We'd love to help you. We'll study with you. There's nothing we can do. It's all God and your response to Him. So we would love to take your Bible in your hand and show you what God promises and expects. Maybe there's someone who's fallen away and you're not living your life all right. You've drifted away. You've moved away and you need to be restored. You're looking for that anchor. It didn't move. You did. We would love to help you reconnect. If we can help you in any way, please let us know how as we stand and sing this song.